The Children Beneath Blackwood, the missing class. My name is Evelyn Marsh. I was a substitute teacher in 1999, and I was the last person to ever see the children of Blackwood Elementary. It started with a phone call, a number that wasn't listed anywhere. Miss Marsh, we need someone to cover the night class. The regular teachers not coming back. I almost said no, but the pay was good, and I needed it. So I drove out to Blackwood, a fog-drowned mining town an hour from anywhere. There was no sound except the wind scraping across old church bells. The school was still standing, half the windows shattered, vines growing through the walls, but the lights inside were on. When I stepped through the doors, the smell hit me: chalk, mold, and something else. Rot. There were desks set up neatly, books open, and 12 little coats hanging by the door, but no children. I tried calling out, "Hello, kids?" No answer until the intercom crackled. A faint child's voice whispered, "We're still here, Miss Marsh. Don't turn around." Every light flickered. I turned anyway, and saw shadows sitting at every desk, 12 faint outlines of children, staring straight at me. Then one of them stood up, a small boy. He had no face, just a suggestion of where one should be. "You're late," he said, in a voice that sounded like 100 overlapping whispers. "Class has already begun." He raised his hand, and all the others followed, in perfect unison. And then, the floorboards began to creak, opening like lungs. I ran. The hallway stretched impossibly long. Lockers slammed one by one behind me, echoing like screams. The exit sign flickered, showing the word down instead of exit. There was a sound like dozens of feet running above me, below me, through the walls. Children laughing, chanting something I couldn't understand. When I finally burst through the doors, I was standing not outside, but at the bottom of a spiral staircase, descending into darkness. At the bottom, I found a classroom carved from stone, lit by candles. Names scratched into the walls, the same 12. And in the center, a massive blackboard. Written on it in shaky white chalk were the words, "Lesson 1. We never left." Then all the candles went out. The substitute, when I woke up, the candles were lit again. Only this time, the desks were full. 12 children sat there motionless, pale, eyes black as ink. Their skin looked waxy, like old dolls left too close to a fire. And standing behind them was a man. Tall, thin, his face hidden behind a cracked porcelain mask. He was writing something on the board. The chalk screeched, a sound made my teeth ache. He turned his head toward me, but not his body, and said softly, "Miss Marsh, you're late again." I didn't know what to say. My voice wouldn't work. I stammered, Where am I?" The man placed the chalk down gently, then turned to face me fully. The mask had no eye holes, no mouth, but somehow I could hear him perfectly. "You're in detention. You've always been here." He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out something small, a bell. He rang it once. The sound echoed not through the air, but inside my chest. And when it stopped, the children started to whisper. One little girl stood up. Her hair was wet, dripping onto the stone floor. She pointed at me and said in a trembling voice, "You took my place." I stumbled back. What do you mean?" Her head tilted unnaturally, cracking as she moved. "We were supposed to go home, but you came instead." The tall man placed his hand on her shoulder. "Sit down, Alice," he said softly. "She doesn't remember yet." That's when I noticed the blackboard again. The words had changed. Lesson 2. Memory is a cage, and underneath, 12 names. Then one more scratch roughly beneath the rest, Evelyn Marsh. My heart stopped. I reached for the wall. It felt warm, pulsing like skin. The candles flickered and dimmed, and the room began to stretch. The desk slid backward into darkness. The floor rippled like water, and suddenly, I was falling into another room entirely. This one looked like a teacher's lounge, but it was old, too old. The wallpaper was yellowed, coffee cups frozen mid-spill, a clock on the wall ticking backward. There were photos pinned to the bulletin board, old class pictures. I looked closer, and in each one, the same 12 children, same faces, same clothes, every year. Then, I saw it. The last photo. It was dated 1899, Blackwood Elementary, and at the bottom, written in elegant cursive, "Class of Miss Evelyn Marsh." My name. But I wasn't alive in 1899, or at least, I didn't think I was. The lights buzzed, The photo frames began to rattle, and in the reflection of the clock's glass, I saw movement. The children again standing behind me watching. Their eyes weren't black anymore. They were mirrors. One of them whispered, "The bell rings again tonight." Then everything went dark. The bell and the blood, the ringing woke me. I wasn't in the school anymore. I was lying on a dirt floor, deep underground. The air was thick, heavy, smelling of rust and soil. When I sat up, I saw something glimmering around me. Bells, dozens of them, small, delicate, each tied to red threads that vanished into the darkness above. Every few seconds, one would chime softly, like a breath. And then I heard the whisper again, all around me. Lesson 3 begins. There was a door ahead, wooden, carved with symbols, circles, and runes I didn't recognize. And in the center, a handprint smeared in something dark and dry. I pressed my hand over it. It fit perfectly. The door opened. The room beyond was massive, like a cathedral buried beneath the earth. Rows of wooden desks stretched into the shadows, all filled with skeletons of children. Each one wore a uniform, still intact, their tiny hands folded neatly on the desks. And standing at the altar, beneath a hanging bell taller than any man, was the masked teacher. He turned as I entered. In his hand, a blood-stained lesson plan. "Miss Marsh," he said softly, "you're just in time for the final exam." I stepped closer, trembling. "What are you? What is this place?" He tilted his head. "We're what's left when the world forgets. The school was built over the well, and the well remembers everything." He walked toward me, his feet making no sound. The children were promised salvation. Instead, they were silenced. He pointed upward, but the well never stopped whispering their names. The air grew heavy. The ground beneath us pulsed alive. From between the cracks in the floorboards, dark water began to rise. It rippled and whispered, forming faces small, childlike, and crying. "They're still down there," he said, "and they need a voice." I backed away. "I'm not part of this, aren't you? You came when we called." He raised his hand and rang the bell. The sound wasn't a sound, it was pressure. It crawled into my ears, through my bones, behind my eyes. I screamed, but no noise came out. The skeletons began to move. Their heads turned toward me in unison. Their mouths opened wide, wider than possible, and black water poured out. It rose quickly, swallowing the desks, the walls, the ceiling. And then I was underwater, suspended in a dark current that pulsed with whispers. Through the murk, faces floated by. The 12 children, eyes glowing faintly white. And beneath them something larger. A shape, a mass of faces twisted together. Hundreds, maybe thousands, all whispering the same word. "Remember." When I reached the surface, I was no longer underground. I was standing in front of the Blackwood well, the real one, but now it looked ancient, covered in roots and bones. The masked teacher stood beside it, bell in hand. The water in the well shimmered faintly red. He said, "This isn't a curse, Miss Marsh. It's a contract. Someone must take attendance." He held the bell out to me. "Ring it, or they'll never stop calling your name." I stared at the bell, at the reflection in the water, and for the first time, I saw my face, but older, decades older. The same eyes, the same terror. "You've done this before," he whispered, "and you'll do it again." The well remembers. The ringing stopped, and for a moment, there was silence. When I opened my eyes, I wasn't by the well anymore. I was standing in a classroom. The air was heavy with dust. The windows were blacked out. Every desk was perfectly arranged, every chair waiting for me. And on the teacher's desk, the bell. It gleamed under a flickering light, like it had been waiting for my hand. The walls began to move again, slow, breathing motions in and out, in and out. The sound of whispering filled the room. Dozens of tiny voices, weaving over each other. "Miss Marsh, you forgot to take attendance. We're still waiting." I tried the door. Locked. The window, bricked over. The whispers turned sharper. "Ring it. Ring the bell. Ring it, or we'll never leave." I turned toward the board. The chalk had written itself. Lesson 4. The well remembers. And beneath it a single name. Mine, Evelyn Marsh. Written over and over again until the entire board was filled with it. I grabbed the eraser, but it didn't work. The name smeared, spreading like ink. My reflection in the blackboard began to move on its own, smiling when I wasn't. It whispered, "It's your turn now." The classroom darkened. The floorboards began to split, revealing that black water again. Hands small, pale, drenched reached up from below. Children's hands. They weren't trying to grab me. They were offering something. Books, notebooks, toys, a teacher's journal. And then I realized every item had my name carved into it. Like I had owned them all, hundreds of times. The masked man appeared at the front of the room, holding the lantern again. He stepped toward me slowly, boots echoing across the floor. Every generation forgets, Miss Marsh. The town rebuilds, the school reopens, and we wait. He placed a finger on the bell. Until one returns. Until you return. I whispered, barely audible. Who are you? He tilted his head. A teacher never dies. They just become. The lesson. He lifted the mask and underneath, there was nothing. No face, no skin, just a swirling darkness that looked almost alive. The walls cracked open, revealing corridors filled with water. Inside them children, countless, floating in silence, their eyes faintly glowing. The sound of bells filled the air, overlapping in chaotic rhythm. The men raised the bell again. Time to begin, Miss Marsh. But I moved first. I grabbed the bell and rang it myself. The moment it rang, everything inverted. Light burst through the walls. The black water turned white. The children screamed not in pain, but release. Their faces softened, their eyes closed, and one by one, they faded, becoming whispers, then silence. The masked man crumbled like paper burning. And when the last echo faded, I was standing alone. Just me, the bell, and the quiet. When I walked outside, dawn had broken. The town of Blackwood was gone, only trees and fog remained. I turned back once. There was nothing but an empty clearing, and a single stone well in the center. On its rim, carved in fresh letters, "Thank you, Miss Marsh." I dropped the bell inside. It rang once, softly, then vanished into the dark. Years later, I returned. The forest had overgrown everything. But where the well had been, there was a small wooden schoolhouse. New, bright, clean. And as I stood there, I heard faint laughter inside. Children, happy. But then, the laughter cut off. A single bell rang. And through the window I saw a woman standing at the blackboard, her back turned to me. Her hair tied up just like mine. Her movements, identical. She wrote something on the board. Lesson 1. History repeats. Then she turned her head and smiled. It was me.